Welcome to this explainer. Today we're going to look inside your head, but we're not going to talk about the brain like it's some squishy static organ or a benign hard drive just happily storing your memories. No, we need to reframe how we see the brain. We need to look at it for what it truly is, a relentless, indiscriminate, and honestly kind of terrifying biological architect. It's a machine that literally never stops building, and it's using your everyday actions as its raw materials. So, what if every thought left a physical scar? I want you to really sit with that question for a second. What if every single thought you had, every fleeting moment of anxiety, every time you reached for your phone, every time you practiced a new skill, left an actual physical mark inside your skull? It completely shatters that soft, fluffy, self-help perception we usually have of personal growth, doesn't it?
Well, the unsettling reality is, it does. Your thoughts are not just these ephemeral, floaty clouds of energy. They leave physical evidence behind.
Section 1. Physicality of your thoughts. The invisible construction project. Let's dive right into how your thoughts are literally physical construction projects happening inside your head right this very second.
Okay, so for decades, scientists actually believed that once you reached adulthood, your brain was fixed, just hardwired. But the reality is a phenomenon called structural neuroplasticity. And we're not just talking about abstract mental energy here, or a temporary shift in your mood. We're talking about fleshy, physical mutations. Your brain literally reshapes its anatomy. It's constantly growing new physical structures and tearing down old ones in real time, adapting to absolutely whatever you're doing.
And you can see that happening right here. At the microscopic level, synaptic plasticity is highly mechanical. You have presynaptic and postsynaptic cells interacting, literally passing chemicals back and forth. And based on your repeated behaviors, these physical connections are either thickening and getting stronger, or they are shrinking and dying off.
To get even more specific, let's zoom in on something called dendritic spines. You can think of these like tiny microscopic vines. Every single time you learn a new chord on the guitar, or let's be real, every time you scroll mindlessly through social media, these spines literally sprout from your neurons to form brand new synaptic connections. But if you stop doing a behavior, those vines retract, they shrink away. It is a constant microscopic jungle of growth and decay inside your head.
Section 2. Building mental highways, carving the white matter. Let's zoom out to the macro level now and see how those microscopic spines actually build into massive biological highways traversing your brain.
The neuroscientist Andrew Huberman puts it perfectly here. Your nervous system's main job is to make predictions. It wants to know exactly what's going to happen next so it can automate your responses and, save energy. And to do this, neuroplasticity is essentially like building new roads. When you repeat an action, your brain paves a literal physical pathway for that specific way of thinking or feeling. It's just making sure the signal travels faster the next time.
And the physical imprint of this is wild. Entirely different experiences all result in massive physical real estate development in your head. For instance, a study from the Max Planck Institute showed that adults learning German actually thickened the white matter networks connecting the two hemispheres of their brains. Meanwhile, London taxi drivers memorizing thousands of streets, they develop physically enlarged hippocampi. Basically, whatever you do the most, your brain physically expands to accommodate it.
Section 3. The dark side of plasticity, prisons of our own making. Because here's the catch, right? Your brain is entirely amoral. It does not judge what it builds. It simply reinforces whatever you feed it. There is a razor-thin line between adaptive and maladaptive plasticity, and this is absolutely crucial to understand. The exact same biological mechanism that allows a stroke victim to regain the ability to walk, or a child to learn the piano, is the exact same mechanism that wires a crippling addiction to a smartphone or entrenches chronic pain and PTSD. Your brain doesn't care if a habit is ruining your life. If you repeat it, it builds a superhighway for it.
And while most habits take a really long time to build, trauma is a whole different story. As the quote says, a traumatic or fearful event only takes once to reshape your nervous system. Usually it takes repeated exposure to build a pathway, right? But a traumatic or fearful event acts like a sudden, violent structural renovation. It bypasses that slow construction phase entirely and instantly reshapes the nervous system to protect you from future threats. It leaves a deep, physical scar of fear. When we look at how addiction mutates the brain, the picture gets even starker. Listen, addiction is not a moral failing. It is a deeply entrenched, heavily trafficked biological architecture driven by instrumental learning.
Addictive substances and compulsive behaviors completely hijack your brain's normal reward-based learning circuits. In fact, research shows that even a single exposure to cocaine can violently alter the strength and sensitivity of your dopamine neurons. The brain physically mutates to prioritize the addiction above literally all else, trapping the person in a physiological prison.
Section 4. The inertia of identity. Why changing feels like dying. This deeply physical reality brings us to a profound and frankly uncomfortable realization about who we actually are.
There's this illusion that you are just a soul or a personality, but biologically speaking, you are a map of highly active physical pathways. So when you decide to change a habit, you are literally declaring war on your own anatomy. Because as the old pathway gets used less and less, it weakens. To change, you must literally starve a physical piece of your brain of electrical activity until those dendritic spines wither and die. You are forcing a physical part of yourself to atrophy. No wonder changing feels so exhausting.
Let's break down this architecture of habit. Step 1. Neurons fire in sequence when you perform an action. Step 2. The structural connections stabilize, laying down actual physical memory traces. And step 3. To break it, you have to stop the firing, causing those unused connections to shrink and be aggressively pruned away. You are dismantling old identity pathways, microscopic brick by microscopic brick, every time you force yourself to break a routine.
Section 5. Rewiring the machine. The slow climb out. Now, the story doesn't have to end in a prison of our own making. Let's look at how we deliberately, systematically dismantle those old roads and pave new ones. First off, we have to shatter that self-help myth that it takes 21 days to form a habit. That is rarely true for deep structural change. Yes, in minutes or hours, a single bout of exercise can boost mental alertness. But the structural changes from intensive language learning, that takes months of daily effort to stabilize. And true rewiring after a stroke or severe trauma, that takes years. Escaping a physical neural prison is a slow, exhausting, multi-year renovation. So how do we actually do it? Well, these are the scientifically backed tools for deliberate reconstruction. Listen, as an adult, passive learning is largely over. You are no longer a sponge. You have to manually chisel the information in. You need intensive focus and directed attention to force the brain to change. You need novel sensory experiences, like traveling or learning complex new skills. You need cardiovascular exercise to prime the brain chemically, and a balanced diet. And you need repeated, relentless exposure to positive stimuli. You absolutely have to consciously force these interventions upon your nervous system. It's a delicate balance. The brain balances stability with adaptability. It desperately wants stability so it can conserve energy, but it maintains just enough adaptability to keep you alive. The ultimate takeaway from this explainer is this: you are the operator of an incredibly powerful, highly dangerous machine. It will blindly follow your instructions. It only builds what you force it to build through your daily, repeated actions. Which leaves us with one final unavoidable reality. Your brain is wiring itself right now. As you sit here, processing this very information, your neurons are firing. Synapses are adjusting. Your brain is structurally changing right now, in this exact second. So I leave you with this. When you close this explainer and go about the rest of your day, what are you building?